Rain hammers the streets of Gangnam like bullets. The black Mercedes careens around the corner, tires screaming against wet asphalt. Inside, Baek Hyun-sik grips the wheel with bloodied hands, his tailored suit torn and soaked crimson. His jaw clenches as headlights flood his rearview mirror, 3 SUVs closing in fast. "Boss, they're gaining," his lieutenant shouts from the passenger seat, already pale from the gunshot wound in his shoulder. Hyun-sik doesn't respond. His dark eyes, cold as winter nights, calculate angles, distances, escape routes. The ambush at the docks was perfect. Too perfect. Someone close betrayed him. A bullet shatters the rear window. Glass explodes inward. "Hold on," Hyun-sik growls, yanking the wheel hard left into a narrow alley. The Mercedes barely fits between buildings. Sparks fly as metal scrapes brick. Behind them, the first SUV attempts to follow, and crashes into a dumpster, blocking the others. Temporary reprieve. Nothing more. His lieutenant slumps forward, unconscious. Hyun-sik's own side burns where a blade found flesh during the hand-to-hand fight on the docks. His white shirt clings to the wound, darker with each passing second. He navigates through Itaewon's maze of back streets, vision blurring at the edges. Need to reach the safe house. Need to warn the others. Need to... The world tilts. His hands slip on the wheel. The Mercedes jumps the curb, sideswiping a parked scooter before jolting to a stop against a street lamp. Steam hisses from the crumpled hood. Hyun-sik forces the door open, stumbling onto the rain-slicked sidewalk. Each breath feels like knives. He checks his lieutenant, still breathing barely. Can't move him. Hyun-sik pulls out his phone with shaking hands. Cracked screen. No signal. Footsteps. Distant but approaching. They found him. He lurches forward, one hand pressed to his bleeding side, feet carrying him on instinct alone. The residential street blurs into streaks of yellow light and shadow. An apartment building. He staggers through the entrance, leaves a bloody handprint on the wall as he climbs stairs. Second floor. Third. His legs give out on the 4th floor landing. No. Get up. Keep moving. But his body won't obey. The darkness at the edge of his vision spreads like spilled ink. Through the haze he sees a door. See, his fist hits the wood once, twice before he collapses against it. The door opens. A woman gasps. "Oh my God." Hyun-sik looks up into the most beautiful eyes he's ever seen, warm brown, wide with shock and concern. Her hands reach for him, strong and gentle. "Please." His voice comes out as a rasp. "Help." Then the darkness swallows him whole. Hey everyone, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from right now? And tell me, what would you do if a wounded stranger showed up at your door in the middle of the night? Would you help them or slam the door? Let's see those answers. Lucy Johnson's hands trembled as she pressed towels against the stranger's wounds. Blood, so much blood, soaked through the fabric, warm and terrifying against her fingers. "Stay with me," she whispered, though she wasn't sure he could hear her. His eyes had rolled back when she dragged him inside, and now he lay sprawled across her living room floor, his expensive suit ruined, his handsome face pale beneath the sharp cheekbones and strong jaw. She should call the police. Should call an ambulance. Should do anything except what she was doing, which was using her basic first aid knowledge from a long-ago community college course to keep a bleeding stranger alive in her tiny Seoul apartment at 2 in the morning. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the desperation in his voice when he begged for help. Maybe it was the way his eyes had locked onto hers in that split second before he collapsed. A look that said he was trusting her with his life, a stranger's life, placed entirely in her hands. Lucy worked quickly, cleaning the knife wound along his ribs, pressing gauze against the worst of it. The bleeding slowed. His breathing steadied. She checked his pulse, strong if a bit fast. She sat back on her heels, pushing curly tendrils of hair from her face with the back of her wrist, not wanting to get blood in it. Her small apartment, usually her sanctuary filled with canvases and art supplies, the lingering scent of coffee and acrylic paint, now looked like a crime scene. Who was this man? His suit, though torn and bloodied, was clearly expensive. Custom-tailored. His shoes alone probably cost more than her month's rent. He wore a simple platinum watch, elegant and understated. No wedding ring. And his face, even unconscious and injured, there was something commanding about it. Sharp features, a perpetual shadow of stubble along his jaw, the kind of masculine beauty that belonged in magazine spreads. Lucy reached for her phone, finally ready to call for help, when his hand shot out and caught her wrist. She yelped, dropping the phone. His eyes snapped open, dark, intense, completely alert despite his injuries. In one fluid motion he sat up, his other hand reaching for something at his waist. A gun. He had a gun. Who are you? His voice was low, accented but clear. Who sent you? Nobody sent me. This is my apartment. Lucy tried to pull away but his grip was iron. You collapsed at my door. I helped you. He studied her face, those dark eyes scanning every feature as if memorizing her. Reading her for lies. After a long moment, his grip loosened slightly, though he didn't release her. You're American, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes. I've lived here 5 years. Please, I just wanted to help. His gaze dropped to their joined hands. To her wrist. Suddenly his entire body went rigid. His eyes widened, just for a fraction of a second, before his expression hardened into something unreadable. Where did you get that? He turned her wrist, revealing the small tattoo on her inner wrist. A black lotus flower, delicate and intricate. Lucy's heart hammered. It's just a tattoo. I got it 3 years ago. I thought it was beautiful, I didn't know it meant. You need to come with me. Right now. He released her wrist and stood, moving with surprising grace for someone who'd been bleeding out minutes ago. He pressed a hand to his bandaged side, jaw tight with pain he clearly refused to acknowledge. I'm not going anywhere with you. Lucy scrambled to her feet. I don't even know who you are. Baek Hyun-sik. He pulled out his phone, texted rapidly with one hand. And that mark on your wrist just made you a target for every syndicate in Seoul. What? That's insane. It's just a flower. It's the mark of the Black Lotus. His eyes met hers and for the first time she saw something like regret in them. It means someone used you as collateral for a debt. A very large debt. And the people who came for me tonight. He moved to her window, peered through the blinds at the street below. They'll come for you too once they realize what you are. Lucy's mind reeled. Collateral? The only person who could have. My uncle, she whispered. Michael Johnson. He disappeared 2 years ago. I haven't heard from him since he left the States. Then he's either dead or very good at hiding. Hyun-sik turned from the window, his expression grave. Because whoever holds his debt now owns you. That mark is a binding contract in our world. Your world? What are you, some kind of... She stopped, the pieces clicking together. The expensive suit. The gun. The way he moved like violence was second nature. Oh God. You're... the head of the Black Lotus Syndicate. He said it without pride or shame, just fact. Or I was, until someone decided tonight was the perfect time for a coup. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, swore softly in Korean. We need to leave. No. They're coming. As if summoned by his words, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Hyun-sik moved fast. He grabbed Lucy's arm with one hand, his gun with the other. Is there a back way out? The fire escape. Show me. Lucy didn't argue. Something about the cold certainty in his voice told her he wasn't exaggerating the danger. She led him to her bedroom window, fingers fumbling with the latch. Behind them, fists pounded on her apartment door. Open up. We know you're in there. The window stuck. Lucy pulled harder, panic rising in her throat. Hyun-sik reached past her and forced it open with one smooth shove. Go. I'm right behind you. The door burst open as Lucy climbed onto the fire escape. Shouts in Korean. Heavy footfalls rushing toward them. Hyun-sik fired twice behind him, not to kill, Lucy somehow knew, but to buy time, before following her out the window. They descended the metal stairs in a blur, Lucy's bare feet slipping on rain-slicked rungs. For floors had never felt so high. Below, the alley stretched dark and narrow. Jump. Hyun-sik commanded when they were still 10 feet up. Are you crazy? He didn't wait for her agreement. He simply grabbed her hand and jumped, pulling her with him. They landed hard on a pile of trash bags, which cushioned the fall but did nothing for Lucy's dignity. Hyun-sik was already pulling her to her feet, his hand never leaving hers. Run. They sprinted through the alley. Behind them, men shouted and gave chase. Lucy's lungs burned, her feet screaming in protest against the rough pavement. She'd left everything behind, her phone, her wallet, her shoes. Her entire life condensed to this moment, running through Seoul's rain-soaked streets with a mafia boss's hand wrapped around hers. A black car screeched around the corner ahead. Lucy's heart sank, they were trapped, but Hyun-sik pulled her toward it. The passenger door flew open. Get in, a voice shouted from inside. Hyun-sik shoved her into the back seat and dove in after her. The car was moving before the door even closed, tires squealing as it shot forward. Lucy caught a glimpse of their pursuers, 3 men in dark suits, one raising a gun, before the car whipped around a corner and they were gone. She collapsed against the seat, gasping for breath, her whole body shaking with adrenaline. Next to her, Hyun-sik was already checking his phone, issuing rapid commands in Korean to the driver. Lucy looked down at her wrist, at the innocent lotus flower that had just upended her entire world. What had her uncle done? And what had she just gotten herself into? Hyun-sik's hand found hers in the darkness of the back seat, warm and steady despite everything. "I won't let them hurt you," he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers. "I give you my word." Lucy wanted to ask what the word of a mafia boss was worth. Instead, she found herself believing him. God help her, but she believed him. The safe house was nothing like Lucy expected. Instead of some dingy warehouse or abandoned building, Hyun-sik's driver delivered them to a sleek high-rise in Gangnam, the kind of building with a marble lobby and a doorman who nodded at Hyun-sik without asking questions. The penthouse apartment was all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Seoul skyline, modern furniture in blacks and grays, expensive and cold. Like the man who owned it. "You'll be safe here," Hyun-sik said, moving to a hidden panel in the wall that revealed a fully stocked arsenal. He selected a fresh magazine for his gun, checked the chamber with practiced efficiency. "The building has security. No one gets up here without my authorization." Lucy stood in the center of the vast living room, still barefoot, still wearing the paint-stained t-shirt and sweatpants she'd been sleeping in. The absurdity of it all hit her like a wave, and before she could stop herself, she started laughing. Hyun-sik turned, eyebrow raised. "I'm sorry," she managed between giggles that bordered on hysteria. "It's just, this morning I was worried about making rent. Now I'm in a mafia boss's secret apartment because I'm apparently collateral for a debt I didn't even know existed. It's just..." Another laugh bubbled up. "It's so insane." Something shifted in Hyun-sik's expression. Not quite a smile, but a softening around his eyes. "Sit down before you fall down. You're in shock." He guided her to the leather sofa, then disappeared into the kitchen. Lucy heard cabinets opening, the clink of glass. He returned with a tumbler of amber liquid. "Drink. It'll help." She took a sip and immediately coughed. "What is this?" 20-year-old whiskey. He sat in the chair across from her, studying her with those dark, unreadable eyes. "We need to talk about your uncle." The alcohol burned its way down her throat, but he was right. It did help. The shaking in her hands subsided. Lucy took another small sip before answering. "Michael Johnson. My mom's younger brother. He was always the black sheep of the family, in and out of trouble, always chasing get-rich-quick schemes." She stared into her glass. 5 years ago, he told me he had a business opportunity in Seoul. Asked me to come with him. I'd always wanted to travel, to experience art outside of America, so I said yes. We came together, but..." She paused. 3 years ago he started disappearing for days at a time. Wouldn't tell me where he went. Then one day he just never came back. Left a note saying he was sorry, that he'd made mistakes, that I should forget about him. "And the tattoo?" Lucy touched her wrist instinctively. "A few months before he disappeared, he convinced me to get matching tattoos. Said the black lotus represented new beginnings, resilience. I thought it was his way of bonding, of trying to be a better uncle." Bitterness crept into her voice. "I was so stupid." "You trusted family. That's not stupid." Hyun-sik leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "How much did he owe?" "I don't even know. I didn't know he owed anything until tonight." 500 million won. At her sharp intake of breath, he nodded. "About 400,000 US dollars. He borrowed it from my predecessor, Young Min-ho, to fund an illegal gambling ring. The ring got busted. The money disappeared. And your uncle put you up as insurance that he'd pay it back." Lucy felt sick. Can I just pay it back? I have some savings, I could. The mark doesn't work that way." Hyun-sik's voice was gentle but firm. "Once it's placed, only the person who placed it can remove it. Or the current head of the syndicate can void it entirely." He paused. "That would be me. Except as of tonight, my authority is somewhat in question." The ambush at the docks. "My lieutenant, Park Jin-woo, has been working with the Jade Serpents, a rival syndicate, to take control of Black Lotus operations. He orchestrated tonight's attack. Nearly succeeded too." Hyun-sik's jaw tightened. "I need to find out who else is working with him. And I need to do it fast before they make another move." Lucy set down her glass, her mind racing. "You said the mark makes me a target. Why?" "Because whoever controls you controls leverage over the debt. Jin-woo knows I have codes of honor I won't break even for business. One of them is that marked civilians are untouchable, they can't be harmed or used, only held as assurance. His eyes met hers. But Jinwoo doesn't share my codes. If he finds you, he'll use you to flush out your uncle, or sell you to the highest bidder or worse. The room felt suddenly smaller. So what do we do? We. Hyun-sik repeated the word like he was testing it. There is no we. You should be hidden somewhere safe while I deal with this. Except everywhere I could hide, they'll look for me, right? Lucy leaned forward. You said it yourself. The mark makes me valuable. They won't stop until they find me. So my options are, hide and hope you win or help you win faster. You're a civilian. An artist. I'm also a graphic designer who's very good with computers. She raised her chin, channeling every ounce of strength her mother had taught her to carry. If you need to find out who's betraying you, you need information. Data. Communications. I can help with that. Hyun-sik studied her for a long moment. Then, to her surprise, he pulled out a laptop from a drawer in the side table and set it in front of her. Jinwoo has been communicating with someone using encrypted channels. My tech person was killed in the ambush. He opened files on the screen. If you can decrypt even one message, it might tell us who his other conspirators are. Lucy pulled the laptop onto her knees, scanning the encrypted files. Complex but not impossible. The work would help, she realized. Give her something to focus on besides the terror thrumming through her veins. I'll need time. And coffee. Lots of coffee. The corner of Hyun-sik's mouth twitched. I think I can manage that. 3 hours later, Lucy's eyes burned from staring at code, but she'd made progress. The encryption was military grade, but whoever had implemented it had left a small backdoor, probably for their own access. She exploited it, peeling back layers of security until messages began to appear. Got something, she said. Hyun-sik materialized at her shoulder. He'd been pacing the apartment, making calls, organizing what remained of his loyal men. Now he leaned down to read the screen, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle, cedar and bergamot. The American girl is the key, he read aloud. Once we have her, Baek will have no choice but to negotiate. Sighed. Choi Sung-min. Hyun-sik's entire body went rigid. You know him? My mentor. The words came out flat, emotionless, but Lucy heard the betrayal beneath. He's been with Black Lotus for 20 years. I trusted him with my life. Lucy's hand found his without thinking, squeezing gently. I'm sorry. He looked down at their joined hands, seeming surprised to find them there. But he didn't pull away. Keep going, he said quietly. See what else you can find. By dawn they had a list, 6 names including Park Jinwoo and Choi Sung-min. 6 men Hyun-sik had trusted, now plotting his death. This is good work, he told her, and the approval in his voice sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. You should rest. So should you. She gestured at the blood seeping through his bandage. When's the last time you changed that? I'm fine. You're bleeding through your shirt. Let me help. He hesitated, then nodded curtly. Lucy retrieved the first aid kit he'd pointed out earlier and joined him on the sofa. She worked carefully, peeling away the old bandage, cleaning the wound with gentle fingers. You're good at this, he observed. My mom was a nurse. She taught me basics before she passed. Lucy concentrated on applying a fresh bandage, trying not to think about how intimately close they were, how her fingers pressed against the warm skin of his ribs. Tell me something. Why do you do this? The Black Lotus, I mean. You don't seem like someone who enjoys hurting people. Hyun-sik was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, I was 8 when young Minho found me living on the streets. My parents had died in a car accident, and I had no other family. I was starving, stealing to survive. His voice was distant, remembering. Minho took me in, fed me, educated me, trained me. He saved my life, and when he died 3 years ago, he left the Black Lotus to me. This is the only family I've ever known. Lucy's hands stilled. She looked up at him, saw the carefully guarded vulnerability in his dark eyes. Family shouldn't ask you to hurt people, she said softly. Maybe not. But it's the only family I have. He caught her hand, his thumb brushing over her wrist, over the tattoo. Until I figure out how to remove this mark, you're under Black Lotus protection. That makes you family too. And I protect my family. The words should have scared her. Instead, they made her feel safer than she had in years. Teach me to protect myself, she said suddenly. If I'm going to be targeted, I should know how to fight back. Hyun-sik's eyes widened slightly. Then that almost smile returned. All right. But first you need real sleep. "You're dead on your feet." He was right. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving her exhausted. Lucy let him guide her to the guest bedroom, where she collapsed onto sheets that smelled like expensive laundry detergent. "Hyun-sik," she called as he turned to leave. He paused in the doorway. "Thank you. For protecting me." He nodded once, then closed the door softly behind him. Lucy fell asleep thinking about the way his hand had felt around hers. Warm, strong, safe. She didn't dream about the men chasing her through dark alleys. She dreamed about dark eyes and almost smiles and a man who was more than the monster he thought himself to be. The next 5 days blurred together in a strange, intense rhythm. Mornings began with self-defense training, Hyun-sik patient and exacting as he taught Lucy how to break holds, strike vulnerable points, use an attacker's momentum against them. Afternoons she spent decrypting more messages, building a clearer picture of the conspiracy. Evenings they planned, strategized and slowly, carefully began to trust each other. Lucy learned that Hyun-sik took his coffee black and too hot, that he had a scar on his left shoulder from a knife fight when he was 16, that he spoke 4 languages fluently and read classic literature when he couldn't sleep. That beneath the cold exterior was a man who'd never been given the chance to be anything but what circumstances demanded. Hyun-sik learned that Lucy hummed when she worked, that she missed her mother every single day, that she'd come to Seoul chasing a dream of artistic freedom and found a home she loved despite its dangers. That she was stronger than she looked, braver than she knew, and had a smile that could cut through even his darkest moods. Neither of them acknowledged the way their sparring sessions lasted longer than necessary, hands lingering when he corrected her stance. Or how they'd started sitting closer together on the sofa when reviewing files, shoulders touching, her curls occasionally brushing his arm. Or how sometimes late at night, they'd catch each other staring and look away too quickly. On the 6th morning, everything changed. "We have a problem," Hyun-sik announced, striding into the kitchen where Lucy was making coffee. His expression was grim. "One of my loyalists, Kim Dae-young, was taken by Jin-woo's men last night. They're holding him at a warehouse in Incheon." Lucy's stomach dropped. "Why?" "Wait. They know I won't abandon my people." He paced like a caged tiger. "But it's obviously a trap. They'll have the place surrounded waiting for me. So we don't go." "I have to go. Dae-young has a wife. 2 children. I can't leave him to be tortured or killed because I'm afraid of a trap." Though we slipped out before Lucy could stop it. "Then we go smart. What do we know about the warehouse?" Hyun-sik's eyes narrowed. "You're not coming." "Yes, I am. You need backup and most of your loyal people are scattered or in hiding. I'm here. I can help." "You've had less than a week of training?" "Which is more than I had before. Look, you're walking into a trap either way. At least if I come, you have someone watching your back." She crossed her arms. "Plus, I'm good with computers, remember? If they have security systems, cameras, I can disable them." He looked like he wanted to argue. Instead, he pulled up building schematics on his tablet and showed her the warehouse layout. "There's a security office here on the 2nd floor. If you can reach it and shut down their cameras, it'll give us a significant advantage." He met her eyes. "But the second things go wrong, you run. Understand?" Lucy nodded, ignoring the fear pooling in her stomach. 3 hours later, she crouched in the shadows outside the warehouse, dressed in black clothes Hyun-sik had procured from somewhere, a small earpiece connecting her to him. Her heart hammered so hard she was sure everyone within a mile could hear it. "Ready?" Hyun-sik's voice was calm in her ear. He was positioned on the opposite side of the building, preparing to create a distraction. "Ready?" she whispered, not feeling ready at all. "Lucy." His voice softened. "Be careful. You too." The distraction came as a small explosion near the main entrance. Nothing huge, just enough to pull the guard's attention. Lucy slipped through a side door Hyun-sik had marked on the schematics, her footsteps silent on the concrete floor. The warehouse was massive, filled with shipping containers and crates. She moved between them like a shadow, using every technique Hyun-sik had taught her about stealth and awareness. Voices echoed from the main floor, men shouting about the explosion. She found the stairs to the 2nd floor, climbed carefully. The security office door was unlocked. Too easy, some instinct whispered, but she didn't have time to second-guess. Inside, monitors showed various angles of the warehouse. She spotted Hyun-sik on one screen, moving like lethal grace through the shadows. On another monitor, she saw Kim Dae-young tied to a chair, bruised but alive. And on a third screen she saw Park Jin-woo and Choi Sung-min waiting in ambush near Dae-young, a dozen armed men with them. "Hyun-sik," she whispered urgently into the mic, "it's worse than we thought. Jin-woo and Sung-min are both here with at least 12 men. They're waiting for you near. The monitor flickered. Changed. Now it showed the security office. Showed her from a camera she hadn't noticed. The door behind her opened. "Hello, Miss Johnson," Park Jin-woo said, gun leveled at her head. "We've been expecting you." Hyun-sik heard the commotion through Lucy's earpiece, scuffling Jin-woo's voice, Lucy's sharp gasp, and felt his entire world narrow to a single point of crystalline focus. They had her. Every rational thought screamed at him to retreat, to regroup, to come back with reinforcements. But the fear in Lucy's voice overrode everything else. He'd promised to protect her. Promised she'd be safe. He moved through the warehouse like a storm, abandoning stealth for speed. 2 guards spotted him. He dropped them both with precise shots. Another 3 appeared. He used one as a human shield, disarmed the second, snapped the third's wrist before he could fire. The training of a lifetime, the violence he'd been shaped into, all channeled toward a single purpose: reaching her. He burst into the main area where they held Dae-young. Choi Sung-min stood there with 6 men, all guns trained on him. Hyun-sik. His former mentor's voice held regret. "I hoped it wouldn't come to this." "Where is she?" "The girl? Jin-woo has her upstairs. She's unharmed for now. But that depends on you." Sung-min gestured to Dae-young. "I'll trade you. The girl for your surrender. You walk away from Black Lotus, leave Seoul, and everyone lives." "You know I can't do that." "I know." Sung-min sighed. "Which is why this is going to end badly." The gunfight erupted in a chaos of muzzle flashes and the deafening crack of bullets. Hyun-sik moved on pure instinct, using containers for cover, returning fire with deadly accuracy. 2 men down. 3. Sung-min retreated behind his remaining guards. Then Hyun-sik heard it, Lucy's voice shouting, the sound of a struggle from upstairs. He made a choice. Left Dae-young, left Sung-min, and sprinted for the stairs. The security office was a disaster. Lucy had fought. There was blood on the floor, an overturned chair, a broken monitor. Jin-woo's voice echoed from deeper in the building. "Up here, Beck. Come and get her." Hyun-sik followed the voice to the warehouse roof access. He emerged into pouring rain, gun raised, to find Jin-woo holding Lucy at the edge of the roof, his arm locked around her throat. She was alive. Bleeding from a cut above her eye, but alive and furious. "Let her go," Hyun-sik said, his voice deadly calm. "You don't give orders anymore." Jin-woo pressed the gun harder against Lucy's temple. "You've gone soft, Beck. This girl has made you weak. The old you would have sacrificed her without hesitation. The old me would have put a bullet between your eyes the first time you showed disrespect." Hyun-sik kept his gun trained on Jin-woo's head, looking for an opening. "You have one chance to walk away from this." "Or what? You'll shoot?" "You might hit her." Jin-woo laughed. "Face it, you've lost. Black Lotus is mine now. And this marked woman?" He shook Lucy slightly. "She's going to make me very rich." Lucy's eyes met Hyun-sik's, and in that moment he saw her decision. She mouthed one word, "Trust me." Then she went limp in Jin-woo's arms. The sudden dead weight caught him off guard. His grip loosened for just a second. Lucy drove her elbow back into his ribs, exactly the move Hyun-sik had taught her, and twisted away. Hyun-sik fired. Jin-woo staggered, clutching his shoulder, gun falling from his hand. But they were too close to the edge. He grabbed for Lucy as he fell, fingers catching her shirt. They both went over. "No." Hyun-sik ran for the edge, saw them falling toward the Han River 3 stories below. He didn't think. Just holstered his gun and jumped. The water hit like concrete, driving the air from his lungs. Darkness swallowed him. He kicked frantically, searching until his hand found fabric. He grabbed and pulled. Lucy. He had Lucy. They broke the surface together, gasping. The current was strong, pulling them downstream. On the riverbank, flashlights appeared, Sung-min's men. "Swim," Hyun-sik commanded, keeping one arm around Lucy. "Stay with me." They swam until his muscles screamed, until the lights behind them faded, until they could pull themselves onto a small dock beneath a bridge. They collapsed on the wet wood, rain washing over them, both breathing hard. Lucy started laughing. Not the hysterical sound from before, but genuine, breathless joy. "We're alive," she gasped between laughs. "We jumped off a building and we're alive." Hyun-sik found himself laughing too, the absurd relief of survival overriding everything else. "You went limp. That was smart. You taught me that. Use their expectations against them." She turned her head to look at him. Rain dripped from her curls, and her eyes were bright despite the blood and exhaustion. "You jumped in after me?" "Of course I did." "Why?" The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Hyun-sik reached out, cupping her cheek with one wet hand. Because somewhere in the last week, keeping you safe became more important than anything else. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Because when I thought I'd lost you, nothing else mattered. Lucy's breath caught. Then she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It was gentle at first, tentative, rain-soaked and perfect. Then Hyun-sik's control shattered. He pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, pouring everything he couldn't say into the press of his lips against hers. She tasted like rain and courage and everything good he didn't deserve. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucy smiled against his mouth. We should probably get somewhere dry, she whispered. Probably. But neither of them moved. Not yet. Hyun-sik pressed his forehead to hers, feeling her heartbeat against his chest, steady and strong. I'm bringing you into a war, Lucy. If you stay with me. I know what I'm choosing. Her hands framed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. I'm not naive. I know this is dangerous. But I also know that you're a good man trying to do right by the people who depend on you. And I know. She paused, vulnerability flickering across her features. I know I've never felt safer with anyone than I do with you. Even jumping off buildings into rivers. He kissed her again, softer this time, reverent. A promise? Come on, he said finally, helping her to her feet. I know a place. We need to regroup. They disappeared into the Seoul night, hand in hand, leaving the chaos behind them. For now. The cabin sat 2 hours outside Seoul, hidden in the mountains where pine trees grew thick and the air smelled of earth and rain. One of Hyun-sik's oldest safe houses, known only to a handful of people. All of them now dead or proven traitors except for one. Kim Dae-young, Lucy said as Hyun-sik unlocked the door. Did we save him? My men extracted him during the chaos. He's safe. Hyun-sik ushered her inside, immediately checking windows, securing entrances with the automatic efficiency of someone who'd lived in danger his entire life. He's the one who told me about this place. We can trust him. The cabin was small but well-stocked. A single main room with a kitchenette, a loft bedroom accessible by a wooden ladder, and a fireplace that Hyun-sik set about lighting while Lucy explored. Someone had left supplies, canned food, bottled water, first aid materials, and a change of clothes that, while too large, would be warm and dry. Showers through there, Hyun-sik said, gesturing to a small bathroom. You should warm up. I'll make food. Lucy wanted to argue that he needed medical attention first. His side had to be hurting after their swim, but the exhaustion pulling at her won out. 20 minutes later, she emerged in an oversized sweatshirt and sweatpants, her curls wrapped in a towel, to find Hyun-sik had prepared instant ramen and rice. They ate in companionable silence, the fire crackling, slowly thawing the chill from their bones. Outside, night had fallen completely, wrapping the cabin in darkness. Your turn, Lucy said when they finished. Shower. Let me check your wound after. He didn't argue this time, just nodded and disappeared into the bathroom. Lucy heard the water start and busied herself cleaning up, trying not to think about the man on the other side of that door, naked and wet and... Stop. She forced her thoughts to safer territory. Like the fact that they were now fugitives from both Jinwoo's faction and probably half the Seoul underworld. That her entire life had been reduced to what she could carry. That the mark on her wrist had made her a prisoner to circumstances she'd never asked for. But when Hyun-sik emerged, hair damp and wearing clean clothes, his eyes finding hers immediately across the small space, she couldn't regret the path that had led her here. Come here, she said, patting the sofa beside her. Let me see. He sat, lifted his shirt. The wound along his ribs was healing but had been aggravated by their escape. Lucy cleaned it carefully, applied fresh bandages, hyper-aware of every breath he took, every slight flinch when she touched a tender spot. You're very gentle, he said quietly. And you're very stoic. She smoothed the last piece of medical tape. Most people would have collapsed by now. I'm not most people. No. She let her hand rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath her palm. You're not. His hand covered hers. Lucy, what happened on that roof? The kiss. He paused, seeming to struggle for words. I need you to understand what being with me means. I have enemies. Powerful ones. And after tonight that list just grew. If we do this, if we're together, you'll never be completely safe. I haven't been safe since the moment you collapsed at my door. Lucy shifted closer. Maybe I don't want safe anymore. Maybe I want real. This is as real as it gets. She could see the war in his eyes, the desire fighting against the protective instinct, the man battling the monster he thought he had to be. So she made the choice for both of them. Lucy kissed him, soft and deliberate, giving him every chance to pull away. Instead, his arms came around her, pulling her into his lap, the kiss turning heated. His hands tangled in her damp curls while hers explored the planes of his chest, his shoulders, mapping the scars and strength of him. "We should stop," he murmured against her mouth even as he kissed along her jaw, her neck, finding sensitive spots that made her gasp. "Why?" She arched into him, feeling his responding shudder. "Because once I start, I won't want to stop." His voice was rough, strained. "And you deserve better than a quick fumble in a safe house." Lucy pulled back enough to meet his eyes, her hands framing his face. "I deserve to choose what I want. And I choose you. Here. Now." Her thumb traced his lower lip. "Unless you don't want." He cut her off with a kiss that left no doubt what he wanted. Then, with surprising gentleness, he stood and carried her toward the loft ladder. "Not a fumble," he said, his eyes dark with promise. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right." Later, lying tangled together in the loft bed, Lucy traced lazy patterns on Hyun-sik's chest while he played with her curls. The rain had started again outside, drumming on the roof, cocooning them in warmth and shadow. "Tell me something true," she said softly. "Something you've never told anyone." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "I'm tired. Of the violence. The constant vigilance. Living like every day might be my last." His arm tightened around her. "I've been doing this since I was 8 years old. I don't know how to be anything else. But with you." He paused. "With you I want to try." Lucy's heart clenched. She kissed his shoulder, his jaw, his lips. "Then we'll figure it out together. You have too much faith in me. Maybe you don't have enough faith in yourself." He smiled, a real smile this time, the kind that transformed his whole face, making him look younger, less burdened. Lucy committed it to memory, this moment of peace before the storm they both knew was coming. They made love again, slower this time, learning each other thoroughly. And afterward, as Lucy drifted toward sleep in his arms, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. She woke to Hyun-sik's phone buzzing insistently. He was already awake, had probably never fully slept, his body tense beside her. "It's Dae-young," he said, checking the screen. He answered, listened, and his expression went dark. "When? How many?" "Understood. Stay hidden. I'll handle it." "What's wrong?" Lucy sat up, pulling the blanket around herself. "Choi Sung-min has declared himself the new head of Black Lotus. He's offering a bounty for my head and yours, 20 million won each, dead or alive." Hyun-sik's jaw clenched. "And he's given the order to execute anyone still loyal to me. Dae-young says at least 3 families have already been targeted." Lucy felt ice settle in her stomach. "Your people. Because of us. Because of me." He stood, began dressing with sharp, angry movements. "Because I've been too soft, too trusting. Sungmin was right about one thing, I've changed. The old me would have seen this betrayal coming. The old you wouldn't have saved me. Wouldn't have jumped into a river after a stranger." Lucy rose, touched his arm. "Don't regret being human, Hyun-sik." He turned to her, and for a moment his mask cracked completely, showing the exhaustion and fear beneath. "I can't lose anyone else. Not my people. Not you. So what do we do?" Before he could answer, the sound of vehicles reached them, engines cutting through the quiet mountain air. Multiple vehicles. Hyun-sik moved instantly, grabbing his gun, killing the lights. "Get dressed. Fast. They found us." Lucy's blood turned to ice. "How?" "Sung-min. He's the only other person who knew about this place." Hyun-sik checked the window, swore softly in Korean. 6 cars. At least 20 men. He's not taking chances." They dressed frantically. Hyun-sik handed Lucy a gun. "You remember what I taught you?" She nodded, mouth dry, trying to channel the confidence he'd built in her during their training sessions. "Good. There's an escape route through the basement. It leads to a ravine. From there we can reach the main road, find a car." He cupped her face, kissed her hard and fast. "Stay close. Stay smart. And if I tell you to run." "I know. I run." She gripped his shirt. "But I'm not leaving you behind." "Lucy." "No. We're in this together. You said it yourself, I'm family now. And family doesn't abandon each other." Pride and fear warred in his expression. Finally he nodded. "Together. But you follow my lead." The first window shattered as they reached the basement stairs. They descended into darkness, Hyun-sik leading with his gun, Lucy right behind him. Above, footsteps thundered across the floor. Voices shouted orders. The basement was cluttered with old furniture and supplies, creating a maze of shadows. Hyun-sik found the escape hatch hidden beneath a workbench. He wrenched it open just as the basement door burst open above them. "Go!" he commanded, practically shoving Lucy into the tunnel. She dropped into narrow darkness, landing hard on packed earth. Hyun-sik followed, pulling the hatch closed just as gunfire erupted above them. The tunnel was barely wide enough to crawl through, claustrophobic and pitch black. "Move," Hyun-sik urged from behind her. "Don't stop until you reach the end." Lucy crawled, her hands scraping against roots and rocks, the sound of pursuit echoing behind them. The tunnel seemed endless and panic clawed at her throat. What if it was blocked? What if they were trapped? Then fresh air hit her face. The tunnel opened into the ravine Hyun-sik had mentioned, a steep drop covered in underbrush. Behind them, flashlight beams penetrated the tunnel. They'd been spotted. "We jump again," Hyun-sik said. "It's about 20 feet. Aim for the bushes." "You've got to be kidding?" Bullets tore through the tunnel, ricocheting off stone. Hyun-sik grabbed her hand. "On 3. 1, 2. They jumped before 3, tumbling through air and vegetation before hitting the ground hard. Pain exploded through Lucy's shoulder, but Hyun-sik was already pulling her up, pulling her into a run. They crashed through the forest, branches tearing at their clothes and skin. Behind them, their pursuers reached the ravine. More gunfire, but the darkness and trees provided cover. They ran until Lucy's lungs screamed, until her legs felt like jelly, until she was sure she couldn't take another step. Then they burst onto a mountain road just as a car rounded the bend. Hyun-sik stepped into its path, gun raised. The car screeched to a halt. A terrified young couple stared at them through the windshield. "I'm sorry," Hyun-sik said in Korean, then switched to English for Lucy. "But we need your car. Now." 20 minutes later, they were speeding back toward Seoul in a stolen Honda, leaving the mountains and their sanctuary behind. The couple had been unharmed, left at the roadside with enough money to buy 10 new cars. But Lucy couldn't shake the image of their terrified faces. This was her life now. Running. Stealing. Always looking over her shoulder. "Talk to me," Hyun-sik said, glancing at her. "You're too quiet. People are dying because of me. Because of this stupid mark on my wrist." She stared at the tattoo, hating it. "Maybe I should just turn myself in. And this." "No." His hand found hers across the console. "You're not collateral, Lucy. You're not a thing to be traded. You're a person who got dragged into circumstances beyond your control, and I will burn down every syndicate in Seoul before I let them treat you like property." The fierce protectiveness in his voice made her throat tight. "What if we can't win this?" she whispered. "Then we'll go down fighting. Together." He lifted her hand, pressed a kiss to her knuckles, right over the Lotus mark. "I promise you I will find a way to end this. To give you your freedom back. Even if it costs me everything." Lucy believed him. And that terrified her more than anything. Because she was starting to realize she didn't want freedom if it meant losing him. The next 2 weeks were a blur of constant movement and escalating violence. Hyun-sik's network of safe houses shrank daily as Sungmin's forces hunted them systematically. They slept in different locations each night. Abandoned apartments, loyal supporters' homes, once even in a Noribang private room, keeping the music loud to mask their presence. But they weren't just running. They were fighting back. Hyun-sik coordinated with his remaining loyalists, Dae-young, a handful of soldiers who still believed in him, and a few allies from neutral syndicates who saw Sungmin's ruthless grab for power as a threat to the entire underworld's fragile balance. Together they staged raids on Sungmin's operations, disrupted his supply chains, turned his own tactics against him. And Lucy discovered she was good at this. The girl who'd spent her days making lattes and designing websites learned how to hack security systems, forge documents, and yes, when absolutely necessary, use the gun Hyun-sik had given her. She was still terrified every time, still shook after each close call, but she didn't freeze. Didn't break. She adapted. "You're a natural," Dae-young told her after she'd successfully disabled the alarm system on one of Sungmin's warehouses, allowing them to steal a major weapons shipment. He was a stocky man in his 40s with kind eyes and a loyalty to Hyun-sik that ran bone deep. "My wife says you're good for the boss." Says he smiles now. Lucy glanced at where Hyun-sik was coordinating with his men, his face all hard angles and concentration. "He smiles? More than he used to." Dae-young smiled himself. "She also says to tell you that when this is over you're coming to dinner. She makes the best kimchi jjigae in Seoul." The casual assumption that there would be an after, that they might survive long enough for dinner invitations, made Lucy's chest ache with hope and fear in equal measure. but not everyone was so welcoming. "You're a liability," Park Young-soo, one of Hyun-sik's lieutenants, said bluntly during a strategy meeting in a dingy basement. He was young, ambitious, and made no secret of his disapproval. "An outsider. An American. And that mark makes you a target that endangers every operation." "Young-soo," Hyun-sik's voice dropped to a dangerous level. "No, it's okay," Lucy interrupted. She met Young-soo's hostile gaze steadily. "You're right. I am an outsider. But I've proven I can pull my weight. I've helped secure 3 successful raids, decoded intelligence that exposed 2 more traitors, and I'm not asking for special treatment. Just a chance to help end this war. The war started because the boss got distracted protecting you. The war started because greedy men saw an opportunity for power," Hyun-sik said coldly. "Lucy didn't create this situation. But she's become an invaluable part of ending it. If you can't see that, Young-soo, perhaps you should reconsider where your loyalties lie." The threat hung in the air. Young-soo backed down, but his resentment was palpable. Later, in the privacy of another temporary safe house, Lucy asked, "Does everyone feel like Young-soo does? That I'm a distraction?" Hyun-sik pulled her into his arms, resting his chin on top of her head. "Some do. Others see what I see, someone brave enough to stand and fight when she could have run. Someone who makes me want to build something better than this endless cycle of violence." He tilted her face up. "You're not a distraction, Lucy. You're the reason I'm still fighting for something worth saving." She kissed him, pouring every ounce of feeling into it. These stolen moments of tenderness between battles had become her anchor, proof that there was still softness in the world despite all the darkness. They made love quietly, carefully, aware of the guards outside and the constant threat of discovery. And afterward, tangled together in yet another unfamiliar bed, Lucy let herself imagine a future. A little apartment somewhere safe. Her art studio. Maybe even that dinner with Dae-young's wife. It felt impossibly far away. The major raid happened on a rainy Tuesday night. Intelligence suggested Sungmin was moving a massive shipment through Busan. Weapons, drugs, and cash worth hundreds of millions of won. If Hyun-sik's team could intercept it, they could cripple Sungmin's operation and force him to negotiate. "It's risky," Dae-young warned as they prepared. "He'll have heavy security. And if it goes wrong..." "If it goes wrong, we're no worse off than we are now," Hyun-sik finished. He checked his weapons with practiced efficiency. "But if it goes right, we cut off his resources and leverage. We make him desperate." Lucy was assigned to communications, monitoring police scanners, coordinating the teams, providing real-time intelligence from a van parked 3 blocks from the target warehouse. Safer than the front lines but still crucial. "I don't like you being anywhere near this," Hyun-sik said, helping her set up the equipment. "And I don't like you walking into gunfights, but here we are." She squeezed his hand. "We've planned this perfectly. It'll work." He kissed her, soft and lingering. "Stay in the van. No matter what happens. I know the rules. Lucy, promise me." The intensity in his eyes made her stomach flip. "I promise." The raid began at midnight. Through the surveillance feeds, Lucy watched Hyun-sik's teams move into position. Shadows against shadows, professional and coordinated. The warehouse security was heavy but predictable. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, looping camera feeds, sending updates through encrypted channels. "Team 1 in position," Dae-young's voice crackled through her headset. "Team 2 ready," another voice confirmed. "Team 3 has eyes on the shipment," Hyun-sik said. 6 guards visible. Likely more inside. "Police scanner is clear," Lucy reported. "You're good to move." Initiating. "Stay sharp." The next 10 minutes were a masterclass in coordinated assault. Hyun-sik's teams breached simultaneously from 3 entry points, overwhelming the guards with speed and precision. Lucy tracked their progress through the feeds, her heart in her throat every time Hyun-sik appeared on screen. He moved like violence made flesh, economical, brutal, effective. A guard went down to a sweep kick. Another to a disarming move she recognized from her own training. He wasn't killing unless necessary, she noticed. Just incapacitating. "Shipment secured," Dae-young announced. "Beginning extraction." Lucy allowed herself a breath of relief. They'd done it. They'd actually. Her police scanner exploded with chatter. Multiple units converging on their location. Hyun-sik. "Police incoming 5 minutes out." "Acknowledged. Teams, expedite extraction." Move. But 5 minutes wasn't enough. The trucks carrying the shipment were still being loaded when the first police cars appeared at the warehouse perimeter. "We're boxed in," Team 2's leader reported. "Can't reach the extraction point," Lucy's mind raced. She pulled up a map of the area, searching for alternatives. There, a service road barely wide enough for the trucks but unblocked. There's another route, she said quickly, sending coordinates. Service road on the east side. It's tight but navigable. Copy that. All teams, redirect to alternate extraction. Lucy watched the feeds, directing traffic, calling out police movements. Her van was hidden well enough that the police hadn't noticed it yet, but that luck wouldn't hold. Then everything went wrong. A black SUV, not police, too expensive, pulled up behind the police line. Men in suits emerged. And through her camera feed, Lucy saw a face that made her blood run cold. Choi Sungmin. Here. Now. Hyun-sik. Sungmin's on site. South in trance. What? That's impossible. Hyun-sik's voice cut off. The feed from his camera went dark. Hyun-sik? Hyunsik. Static. Then Dae-young's panicked voice. They were waiting for us. It's an ambush. The boss is. Gunfire drowned out his words. Lucy's hands shook over the keyboard. This couldn't be happening. They'd planned everything perfectly. Unless someone had leaked the plan. The mole wasn't dead. They'd missed someone. On the remaining feeds, she watched Sungmin's men pour into the warehouse. Watched Hyun-sik's team struggle against overwhelming numbers. Watched the careful plan dissolve into chaos. All teams retreat, Dae-young ordered. Boss's orders. Fall back. But Lucy couldn't see Hyun-sik. His feed was still dark and none of the other cameras showed his position. The van's door suddenly opened. Lucy spun, reaching for the gun Hyun-sik had insisted she carry, but hands grabbed her first. Strong hands. Multiple attackers. Got her, someone said in Korean. Sungmin wants her alive. Lucy fought, using every technique Hyun-sik had taught her, but there were 3 of them and they were prepared for resistance. A cloth covered her mouth and nose, sweet chemical smell, and the world began to tilt. Her last conscious thought was of Hyun-sik's eyes, and the promise she'd broken. She hadn't stayed in the van. She'd been taken from it. Lucy woke to the smell of expensive leather and cigar smoke. Her head throbbed. Her wrists were bound behind her back, secured to a chair. She blinked against harsh lights, slowly taking in her surroundings. A penthouse office, all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking nighttime Seoul, modern art on the walls, a massive desk made of dark wood. Behind the desk sat Choi Sungmin. He was older than she'd expected, maybe late 50s, with silver hair and a grandfather's kind face that didn't match the coldness in his eyes. He wore an immaculate suit and studied her like she was a particularly interesting specimen. "Miss Johnson," he said in perfect English. "I apologize for the rough treatment. My men can be overzealous." Lucy's tongue felt thick. "Where's Hyun-sik?" Direct. "I appreciate that." Sungmin poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. "Your lover is alive. Wounded but alive. We have him in a secure location. Whether he stays alive depends entirely on you." Terror and relief warred in her chest. "What do you want?" "What? I want what I've always wanted, to lead Black Lotus into a new era of prosperity, unbound by Hyun-sik's archaic honor codes and sentimental weaknesses." He sipped his drink. "But to do that I need him to surrender. To publicly acknowledge me as the rightful leader and step down. You're going to help me convince him. He'll never surrender. He will if the alternative is watching you die slowly and painfully." Sungmin's smile was gentle, which made it somehow worse. "You see, Hyun-sik has always been too soft. It's why Young Min-ho chose him. He knew the boy's compassion would balance the syndicate's brutality. But compassion is weakness in our world. And you, my dear, are his greatest weakness." Lucy lifted her chin. "If you think threatening me will break him, you don't know him at all." "Oh, but I do. I raised that boy alongside Min-ho. Taught him to fight, to lead, to survive. I know exactly how he thinks." Sungmin stood, walked around the desk. "And I know that he would burn the world for you. Which is why this will work." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Bring him in." The office doors opened. 2 guards dragged in a barely conscious Hyun-sik. Lucy's heart stopped. He was covered in blood, his face a mass of bruises, one eye swollen shut. They'd beaten him severely, ribs, face, everywhere. He could barely stand, sagging between the guards. "Hyun-sik." Lucy struggled against her bonds. His good eye found her. Something like relief flickered there, followed by rage. "Let her go, Sungmin. This is between us." "No, boy. This stopped being between us when you chose her over your family." Sungmin gestured, and the guards forced Hyun-sik to his knees. "Here's how this works. You sign a document transferring all Black Lotus authority to me. You leave Seoul and never return. In exchange, the girl lives. And if I refuse? Sungmin pulled out a knife, expensive, sharp, the kind meant for precision work. He walked behind Lucy's chair, rested the blade against her throat. The metal was cold against her skin. If you refuse, I start cutting pieces off her until you change your mind. Or until there's nothing left to save. Hyun-sik's face went absolutely white beneath the blood and bruises. You would torture an innocent woman? Innocent? She's marked Hyun-sik. By your predecessor's laws, she's property. Collateral. I'm simply making use of her intended purpose. Those laws were wrong. I was working to change them. And that's why you had to go. The knife pressed harder and Lucy felt a sting, a trickle of warmth down her neck. Last chance. Sign or watch her bleed. Lucy saw Hyun-sik break. Saw the exact moment his resistance crumbled, replaced by desperate fear. For her. Because of her. No, she said quickly. Hyun-sik, don't give him what he wants. Lucy. I mean it. You surrender, he'll kill us both anyway. At least this way you can keep fighting. You can finish what you started, change Black Lotus, protect your people, end these barbaric laws. I can't watch you die. And I can't watch you throw away everything you believe in. Tears ran down her cheeks, but her voice stayed steady. You told me I made you want to build something better. So build it. No matter what happens to me. How touching, Sungmin said. But ultimately pointless. Hyun-sik, you have 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. Hyun-sik's hands clenched into fists. Lucy saw him calculating, searching for an out, finding nothing. 7, 6. I'll sign, Hyun-sik said, the words torn from him. No. Lucy shouted. I'll sign, he repeated louder. Just let her go. Please. I'll give you everything. Sungmin smiled. Now that's the response I wanted. Though I'm afraid I can't actually let her go. She knows too much. But I'll make her death quick. Painless. You have my word. Your word is worth nothing. Perhaps. But it's all you have. Sungmin moved the knife from Lucy's throat and handed documents to Hyun-sik. Sign. That's when Lucy made her move. She'd been working her wrists against the zip ties the entire conversation, using a technique Hyun-sik had taught her. Flex and twist, creating tiny amounts of slack. The ties had cut into her skin, made her wrists slick with blood, but that helped. As Sungmin turned away, Lucy wrenched her hands free. She grabbed the knife from the desk where he'd set it and slashed at the nearest guard. The man yelled, stumbled back. Hyun-sik moved despite his injuries, using the distraction to disarm the other guard and break his nose with a savage headbutt. Chaos erupted. More guards poured through the doors. Hyun-sik fought like a wounded animal, all fury and desperation, but he was outnumbered and badly hurt. Lucy grabbed the fallen guard's gun, fired wildly. She'd never been a good shot, but it forced the others to take cover. The window. Hyun-sik grabbed her hand. They ran for the floor-to-ceiling glass. Through it, Lucy saw they were at least 30 stories up. We can't. Trust me. Hyun-sik grabbed a chair and hurled it at the window. The glass spiderwebbed but didn't break. He grabbed another chair, threw again. This time the glass shattered outward in a cascade of glittering shards. Behind them, Sungmin's men opened fire. Hyun-sik pulled Lucy to the window's edge and pointed down. A window-washing platform hung 2 stories below, suspended on cables. Jump for the platform. I'll be right behind you. Hyun-sik. He kissed her hard and fast. I love you. Now jump. Lucy jumped. The platform rushed up at her. She hit it hard enough to knock the wind from her lungs, pain exploding through her shoulder. Above, Hyun-sik fought off 3 guards, buying her seconds. Then he turned and leaped. He almost made it. His hands caught the platform's edge, but his wounded body couldn't hold on. He started to slip. Lucy dove forward, caught his wrists. I've got you. Let go. Save yourself. Not a chance. She pulled with everything she had, muscles screaming in protest. Inch by agonizing inch, she hauled him up onto the platform. They collapsed together, both gasping. Above, Sungmin appeared at the broken window. Start the descent. Lucy found the platform's control panel, slammed the down button. The platform lurched into motion, cables singing as they descended. Bullets pinged off metal railings. Lucy covered Hyun-sik with her body, pressing them both flat against the platform floor as they dropped past floor after floor of startled office workers. They hit the ground hard. The platform swung wildly, but they were alive. Can you walk? Lucy helped Hyun-sik to his feet. I can run. He grimaced, pressing a hand to his bleeding ribs. We need to get off the street. Sungmin will have men everywhere. They staggered into an alley, Lucy supporting as much of Hyun-sik's weight as she could. He was leaving a blood trail. They needed help, medical attention, somewhere safe. Dae-young, Hyun-sik managed. He'll have a safe house. Lucy pulled out a phone she'd stolen from one of the guards and made the call. 2 hours later, they were in yet another bare-bones apartment, this one in a rundown neighborhood far from Gangnam's gleaming towers. Dae-young's wife, a kind woman named Hannah who asked no questions, had brought medical supplies and was currently stitching up Hyun-sik's worst wounds while he refused pain medication. Lucy sat nearby, her own cuts and bruises cleaned and bandaged, watching Hannah work. The older woman was efficient and gentle, clearly having done this before. You need a hospital, Hannah said quietly. Some of these wounds? No hospitals. They'll find us. Hyun-sik's voice was strained but firm. Then you need rest. Real rest for at least a week. We don't have a week. You don't have a choice, boss, Dae-young said from the doorway. Half your ribs are broken, you've lost a lot of blood and your body needs time to heal. Push yourself now and you'll just get killed later. Hyun-sik looked like he wanted to argue, but Lucy put her hand on his shoulder. He's right. We need to regroup. Figure out our next move. Our next move is obvious. I find Sungmin and end this. Hyun-sik. He was going to kill you, Lucy. Right in front of me. And I was powerless to stop it. His voice broke slightly. I can't go through that again. Lucy knelt in front of him, taking his face in her hands carefully, mindful of his bruises. You weren't powerless. You gave me time to free myself. You fought your way to me. We escaped together. She pressed her forehead to his. But we can't win if you're dead. So please, rest. Bill. Then we fight smart. He closed his eye, the other still too swollen, and nodded minutely. 1 week. Then I'm moving, ready or not. Deal. Hannah finished her work and left them alone with strict instructions about wound care and rest. Dae-young promised to post guards and disappeared to coordinate with their remaining allies. In the quiet apartment, Lucy helped Hyun-sik to the bed. He moved like every breath hurt, which it probably did. I need to tell you something, he said as she helped him lie down. About the marks. About what I used to do. Lucy's stomach tightened. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You deserve to know who you're with. He stared at the ceiling, unable to meet her eyes. When I first took over Black Lotus, I enforced the marking system. Young Minho had built it, but I refined it. Made it more efficient. I personally oversaw dozens of markings. Civilians marked for debts they didn't owe, used as leverage, as property. His voice went hollow. I told myself it was business. That honor demanded we collect what we were owed. I never thought about the people behind the marks. Never let myself see them as human. Lucy felt something cold settle in her chest. Until me. Until you opened your door and saved my life without hesitation. A stranger who owed me nothing. He finally looked at her, and the guilt in his eyes was devastating. I've spent 3 years trying to dismantle the system I once enforced. Trying to change Black Lotus from within. But Lucy, I need you to understand. The man who would have marked you without a second thought? That man existed. He was me. The words hung heavy between them. Lucy processed them, turning them over in her mind. She thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, safe in her small life, untouched by violence, naive about the world's darker corners. That woman might have walked away. But she wasn't that woman anymore. I've done terrible things these past weeks, she said quietly. Shot at people. Helped plan raids that probably got men killed. Became part of a world I never wanted to touch. And every time I told myself it was survival or justice or protecting the people I care about. She took his hand. But the truth is, circumstances change us. Force us to become things we never thought we'd be. The question isn't who you were, Hyun-sik. It's who you're choosing to be now. How can you forgive? I'm not saying there's nothing to forgive. What you did was wrong. Cruel. And if I'd met you back then, I probably would have hated you. She squeezed his hand. But I didn't meet you then. I met a man who jumped into a river after me. Who's fighting to change a system he helped build. Who looks at this mark on my wrist and sees a person worth saving instead of collateral worth collecting. Tears tracked down his bruised face. I don't deserve you. Maybe not. But you've got me anyway. She kissed him softly, carefully. We're both works in progress, Hyun-sik. Both trying to be better than our worst moments. Maybe that's enough. He pulled her down beside him, holding her like she might disappear. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Lucy felt something shift between them, a deeper understanding, a rawer truth. They'd seen each other's darkest parts and chosen to stay. That meant something. Had to. The week of forced rest became 2 weeks of careful planning. While Hyun-sik healed, slower than he wanted, faster than Hannah thought safe, Lucy and Dae-young worked to rebuild their shattered network. The raid's failure had cost them 3 good men dead, others scattered or driven underground. But it had also revealed something valuable. Sungmin was overconfident. He declared victory too soon, assumed his control was absolute. That arrogance created opportunities. The Jade Serpents are unhappy, Dae-young reported during one of their strategy sessions. They partnered with Sungmin expecting a smooth transition of power. Instead, they got a war that's drawn police attention and disrupted business across Seoul. Their leader, Zhang Wei, is looking for an exit. Hyun-sik leaned forward, the movement still careful around his healing ribs. Can we use that? Maybe. If we can convince him that supporting you is less risky than supporting Sungmin. Set up a meeting. Off the record, neutral territory. Boss, he tried to kill you? And now he's regretting it. That makes him desperate. Desperate people can be reasoned with. The meeting happened 3 days later in a traditional tea house in Incidong, chosen for its public location and multiple exits. Hyun-sik insisted on going alone, but Lucy convinced him that showing up without support would make him look weak. I go with you or you don't go at all, she said firmly. Heat smiled at her stubborn expression. You sound like me. I learned from the best. Zhang Wei was a thin man in his 60s, dressed in expensive traditional Chinese robes, his gray hair pulled back in a neat queue. He studied Lucy with open curiosity when they arrived. The marked woman, he said in Mandarin-accented Korean. I've heard much about you. I'm sure you have, Lucy replied in English, her tone neutral. Hyun-sik had coached her on dealing with syndicate leaders. Show respect but never weakness. They sat. Tea was poured according to ritual. Only after the formalities did Zhang speak. You look well for a dead man, Baek Hyun-sik. Reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. Hyun-sik sipped his tea. As are reports of Sungmin's control. He controls enough. More than half of Black Lotus answers to him now. Territory built on betrayal has weak foundations. You know this, Zhang Wei. Your own syndicate has lasted 3 generations because you value loyalty over ambition. The old man's eyes narrowed. What are you proposing? Neutrality. Pull your support from Sungmin. Stop providing him resources and intelligence. In exchange, when I retake Black Lotus, the Jade Serpents receive preferential status in all cross-syndicate negotiations for the next 5 years. And if you fail to retake Black Lotus? Then you're no worse off than you are now. But if you continue supporting Sungmin and I win, the Jade Serpents become my first target after I consolidate power. It was a bold threat, delivered calmly. Lucy held her breath, watching Zhang's face for his reaction. Finally the old man smiled. You have your father's audacity, if not his bloodline. Minho chose well. He set down his teacup. I will pull my support. But I cannot actively help you. The risk is too great. Understood. Neutrality is enough. They sealed the agreement with a handshake, old-fashioned, binding in its own way. As they left the tea house, Lucy let out the breath she'd been holding. 1 down, she said. Several more to go. Over the following weeks, they rebuilt carefully and methodically. Hyun-sik met with other syndicate leaders, business owners under Black Lotus protection, even corrupt officials whose loyalty could be bought. Slowly the tide began to turn. Sungmin's overreach had made him enemies. His brutal tactics had alienated moderates. His disregard for the old codes had offended traditionalists. Hyun-sik exploited every crack in the foundation. Meanwhile, Lucy continued hacking Sungmin's communications, feeding intelligence to Hyun-sik's teams. She'd become invaluable. Dae-young called her their secret weapon, and even Young-soo had grudgingly admitted she'd proven herself. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. I have someone who wants to meet you, Dae-young said one evening, his expression carefully neutral. One of Sungmin's inner circle. Says he wants to defect. Hyun-sik's eyes went hard. It could be a trap. Probably is. But he's offering information about Sungmin's headquarters security. Floor plans, guard rotations, everything we'd need for a direct assault. Why would he betray Sungmin now? Says his conscience finally caught up with him. That watching what Sungmin did to you and the girl made him realize he was on the wrong side. Lucy and Hyun-sik exchanged glances. Sounded too convenient. But if the information was real. Set it up, Hyun-sik decided. But maximum security. We take no chances. The meeting was arranged for an abandoned warehouse, cliché but effective for its multiple sight lines and exits. Hyun-sik brought a full security team. Lucy stayed back with Dae-young monitoring everything through camera feeds. The defector arrived alone as promised. A young man in his 20s, nervous and jumpy. Lee Min-jun. Lucy recognized him from her decrypted files, one of Sungmin's mid-level enforcers responsible for logistics. I want protection, Min-jun said immediately. For me and my sister. Sungmin will kill us both if he finds out I'm here. Tell me what you know first, Hyun-sik replied. Min-jun handed over a USB drive. Everything's on here. Building schematics for Sungmin's headquarters, security protocols, guard schedules, even the location of his private safe room. I copied it all. Why betray him? Because I watched your interrogation through the security cameras. Min-jun's voice shook. Watched what he did to you. What he threatened to do to Ms. Johnson. And I realized, this isn't what I signed up for. I joined Black Lotus to provide for my family, not to torture civilians. Hyun-sik studied him for a long moment. Lucy watched the exchange through her screen, reading Hyun-sik's body language. He was suspicious but interested. If this information is accurate, I'll protect you and your sister. You have my word. How do I know your word is worth anything? Because unlike Sungmin, I've never broken it. Min-jun seemed to accept this. They exchanged contact information, arranged for his sister's extraction and parted ways. Back at the safe house, Lucy and Hyun-sik reviewed the USB drive's contents. It was a gold mine, detailed floor plans showing guard positions, security systems, even the location of Sungmin's private quarters. It's too perfect, Lucy said, studying the schematics. Too detailed. How would a mid-level enforcer have access to all this? Good question. Hyun-sik pulled up Min-jun's file. He's been with Sungmin for 2 years. Logistics coordinator. He would have legitimate access to security protocols for supply deliveries. But building schematics? The location of a secret safe room? They stared at each other as the same realization dawned. It's a trap, they said simultaneously. But a trap we can use, Hyun-sik continued, his mind already working. If Sungmin thinks we'll use this information for a direct assault, he'll prepare for that. Concentrate his forces at the headquarters. Leave other targets vulnerable. Lucy smiled slowly. While we hit him somewhere else entirely. Exactly. They worked through the night, building a new plan. If Sungmin wanted to play games, they'd play, but by their own rules. The final pieces fell into place over the next week. Hyun-sik's network of allies had grown large enough to support a coordinated strike. Zhang Wei, while officially neutral, happened to mention where Sungmin was storing his financial reserves. A bank vault in Gangnam holding hundreds of millions in cash and assets. We hit the vault, Hyun-sik explained to his assembled lieutenants. Drain his financial resources. Without money he can't pay his soldiers, can't maintain control. He'll be forced to negotiate or watch his empire collapse. And if he retaliates by hitting our people? Young-soo asked. He'll be too busy defending himself. We leak information suggesting we're planning multiple simultaneous attacks across the city. Keep him scrambling, defending everywhere, strong nowhere. Dae-young nodded approval. Classic misdirection. Confuse and overwhelm. Lucy will coordinate intelligence and communications, Hyun-sik continued. I want real-time updates on police movements, Sungmin's response patterns, everything. If anything goes wrong, she calls the retreat. Everyone looked at Lucy. She felt the weight of their trust, their lives depending on her doing her job correctly. I won't let you down, she said. Hyun-sik's hand found hers under the table, squeezed gently. In front of his men he maintained his professional distance. But that small touch said everything he couldn't voice aloud. I love you. Be careful. Come back to me. She squeezed back. Same. The raid was set for 3 days hence. Just enough time for final preparations, and Lucy hoped, one more quiet night with the man she loved before everything exploded again. That night, in the privacy of their current safe house, Hyun-sik held her close. After this is over, he said quietly, if we survive, I want to show you something. What? A place. Somewhere I've been thinking about. He tucked a curl behind her ear. Somewhere we could start over. Build something new. Lucy's heart raced. Are you talking about leaving Black Lotus? I'm talking about ending it. Disbanding the syndicate entirely. Returning the territories to legitimate businesses, settling debts fairly and walking away. His eyes met hers. With you. If you'll have me. Hyun-sik. She didn't know what to say. The enormity of what he was offering, giving up everything he'd known, everyone he'd been for a chance at something better. For her. You don't have to answer now, he said quickly. Just think about it. Imagine a life where we're not running. Where that mark on your wrist is just a beautiful tattoo again. Where we wake up each morning without checking for enemies. Lucy kissed him, pouring every ounce of feeling into it. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes to all of it. After we end this. After we win. Yes. He kissed her back, tender and fierce, and they made love like it might be the last time. Slow and reverent, memorizing each other's bodies, storing up moments against an uncertain future. And as Lucy fell asleep in his arms, she let herself truly believe in that future. A little house somewhere quiet. Her art studio finally realized. Hyun-sik at peace, the weight of violence lifted from his shoulders. Together. Free. It was worth fighting for. Worth dying for if necessary. But preferably worth living for. The night of the raid was unseasonably warm, the air thick with the promise of storms. Lucy sat in the communications van, a different one this time, better equipped, surrounded by screens showing feeds from security cameras, police scanners and her team's body cams. Her hands were steadier than they'd been during the last raid. She'd done this before. Knew what to expect. And this time the plan was tighter, the intelligence better, the team more cohesive. All teams in position, she reported through her headset. Police activity normal. Sungmin's headquarters show standard guard rotation. No signs they've detected us. Copy that, Hyun-sik's voice came through, calm and focused. He was leading Team 1, the vault breach team. Dae-young commanded Team 2, providing distraction and blocking reinforcements. Young-soo led Team 3, the extraction unit. Initiating Phase 1, Dae-young announced. On Lucy's screens, Team 2 created chaos across Gangnam, small fires, traffic accidents, anonymous bomb threats. Nothing genuinely dangerous but enough to strain police resources and create the appearance of coordinated attacks. Sungmin's forces reacted exactly as predicted, scrambling to defend multiple locations. Phase 2 go, Hyun-sik ordered. Team 1 moved on the bank vault. It was housed in a nondescript building, security tight but not insurmountable. Lucy watched through their cameras as they bypassed the first layer of security using codes provided by a bank employee they'd turned. First checkpoint clear, Hyun-sik reported. Moving to sublevel access. Lucy monitored police scanners, watching for any response. Nothing yet. Good. Team 1 descended into the bank's lower levels, moving like ghosts through corridors that should have been heavily guarded. Too easy, Lucy's instincts whispered, but the guards were exactly where the intelligence said they'd be, drawn away by the false alerts. Vault room accessed, Hyun-sik said. Beginning extraction. This was the delicate part. The vault contained not just cash but computer servers holding records of Sungmin's operations, blackmail material, transaction histories, evidence of corruption. Everything they needed to dismantle his empire and, if necessary, negotiate immunity from prosecution for Hyun-sik's people. Lucy watched the timer. They had 15 minutes before the system would register the breach in lockdown. 12 minutes in, her police scanner exploded with chatter. Hyun-sik, we have a problem. Police units converging on your location, at least 10 cars. How? We're not supposed to be detectable for another 3 minutes. I don't know, but they're coming in hot. 83 minutes. Hyun-sik swore. Team 2, can you intercept? Negative, Dae-young responded. We're pinned down. Someone leaked our positions. This whole thing is static. Dae-young? Daeju. Ing. No response. Lucy's blood ran cold. She pulled up Team 2's camera feeds and her stomach dropped. They were surrounded, outnumbered, being systematically subdued by what looked like private security, Sungmin's men, not police. It's an ambush, Lucy said urgently. Hyun-sik, Minjun sold us out. This whole thing was a setup. How much time do we have? Lucy checked the screens, calculated distances and response times. Maybe 2 minutes before you're boxed in. That's enough. Team 1, expedite extraction. Grab everything you can carry and move. On the cameras, his team worked frantically, loading servers and cash into bags. But they were running out of time. Team 3, what's your status? Lucy called. Young-soo's voice came back strained. Also engaged. They knew we were coming. Every position is compromised. This was falling apart. Just like last time. How had Sungmin known? How had he anticipated? The van door opened. Lucy spun, reaching for her gun, but Lee Minjun stood there with 5 armed men behind him. Hello again, Ms. Johnson, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sungmin would like a word. They brought her to Sungmin's headquarters after all, the penthouse they'd escaped from weeks ago, now even more heavily fortified. Lucy was bound and placed in the same chair she'd occupied before, the symmetry clearly intentional. Sungmin sat behind his desk, looking supremely pleased with himself. "You made this almost too easy," he said. "I knew Hyun-sik would leap at the chance to hit my assets. And I knew he'd bring you along because he can't bear to let you out of his sight. Sentiment makes people so predictable." "Where is he?" Lucy demanded. "Being transported here as we speak. Along with the remnants of his little rebellion." Sungmin walked to the window. "It's over, Ms. Johnson. Hyun-sik's forces are shattered, his allies captured or killed. In a few minutes I'll have him sign the documents he refused before. And this time I won't be offering any deals. You'll kill us both. Of course. But publicly it'll look like a tragic gang war casualty. The former Black Lotus leader and his American lover, killed by unknown assailants. Very sad." He turned to face her. "I did try to end this cleanly." He could have walked away. "But he chose you over his own survival. That's his weakness, and now it'll be his death." Heavy footsteps in the corridor announced new arrivals. The doors opened and guards dragged in Hyun-sik. He looked worse than after the last interrogation, blood streaming from a head wound, limping badly, his hands bound behind his back. But his eyes were alert and furious. "Lucy," he said, his voice rough. "I'm sorry. I should have seen." One of the guards hit him and he dropped to his knees. "Enough," Sungmin said mildly. "We're all civilized people here." He walked to a wall safe, entered a code and withdrew a small metal device. "Baek Hyun-sik, you are hereby stripped of all Black Lotus authority. Your codes are revoked. Your accounts frozen. Your life forfeit." He turned to Lucy. "And you, Ms. Johnson, are marked property to be disposed of as I see fit." He approached with the device. Lucy recognized it as the tool used for mark removal, except in reverse, it could make the marks permanent, binding them through technology she didn't understand but that interfaced with syndicate databases worldwide. "No." Hyun-sik struggled against his guards. "She has nothing to do with this. On the contrary, she has everything to do with this. She's why you're weak. Why you failed." Sungmin grabbed Lucy's wrist, pressing the device against her lotus tattoo. "Let's make this mark truly permanent, shall we? Then anyone in the underworld who scans it will know she's uncollectible debt, fair game for any." Lucy headbutted him. Her forehead connected with his nose with a satisfying crunch. Sungmin staggered back, blood pouring from his face, dropping the device. "You bitch." Lucy didn't waste time gloating. She'd been working her bonds the entire time, just like before, and now she yanked her hands free and dove for the dropped device. Chaos erupted. Hyun-sik used the distraction to break free from his guards. Lucy didn't see how, but suddenly he was moving, disarming one man and using his gun to drop the other. Sungmin's office became a battlefield. Lucy grabbed the device and ran for the broken window, still not repaired from their last escape. Behind her, Hyun-sik was fighting off multiple attackers, buying her seconds. "The device," he shouted. "Destroy it. It's the only way to free yourself." Lucy looked at the device, then at the syndicate databases she could see on Sungmin's computer screens. An idea struck her, insane and desperate. Instead of destroying it, she plugged it into the computer. "What are you doing?" Sungmin lunged for her, but Hyun-sik intercepted him, and they crashed into each other in a brutal collision. Lucy's fingers flew across the keyboard. She'd hacked syndicate systems before, knew their architecture. The device was a key, giving her access to the marking database. She could see thousands of entries, people marked as collateral, as property, their lives bound to debts and deals. Including hers. She could erase just her entry. Save herself. Lucy, destroy it and run. Hyun-sik shouted. He and Sungmin were locked in vicious hand-to-hand combat, both bleeding, both fighting with the desperation of men who knew only one would walk away. Lucy made her choice. She erased everything. Every mark. Every entry. Thousands of people suddenly freed from digital bondage. The entire marking system dismantled in seconds. Alarms blared as the system registered the catastrophic data loss. No. Sungmin broke away from Hyun-sik and rushed at Lucy. Hyun-sik grabbed him from behind and they struggled. Sungmin was older but desperate. He broke free, grabbed a gun from a fallen guard and aimed it at Lucy. Time seemed to slow. Lucy saw his finger tighten on the trigger. Saw Hyun-sik diving toward her. Heard the gunshot, impossibly loud. Hyun-sik crashed into her, and they tumbled behind the desk as bullets tore into the wood. More guards poured into the room, but these wore different uniforms. Police? No, Zhang Wei's men. The Jade Serpents had come. Neutral, my ass, Lucy heard Zhang Wei's distinctive voice say. Did you really think I'd let Sungmin murder the most honorable man in Seoul's underworld? Bad for business. Gunfire filled the room. Lucy and Hyun-sik stayed down, pressed together behind the desk. She could feel his heartbeat, rapid and strong. You deleted them all, he said, awed. Every mark. You freed everyone. Seemed like the right thing to do. He laughed, slightly hysterical. You're incredible. Insane but incredible. The gunfire stopped. Zhang Wei called out, it's done. Sungmin is dead. You can come out. They emerged slowly. The office was a disaster. Broken furniture, bullet holes everywhere, bodies of Sungmin's guards. And in the center, Choi Sungmin lay still, a red flower blooming across his chest. Zhang Wei stood over him, gun still smoking. He aimed at your woman, the old man said simply, as if that explained everything. That crosses a line even I won't tolerate. Thank you, Hyun-sik said. I won't forget this. See that you don't. I expect those preferential negotiations we discussed. And Zhang Wei smiled slightly. Perhaps an invitation to your wedding. Before either of them could respond to that, Dae-young burst into the room with Young-soo and what remained of their teams. Boss. Thank God. We thought. He stopped, taking in the scene. Is it over? Hyun-sik looked at Lucy, then at the computer where she'd destroyed the marking system, then at Sungmin's body. Yes, he said quietly. It's over. But as they made their way out of the building, Lucy saw Hyun-sik wince and press a hand to his side. When he pulled it away, his palm was red. Hyun-sik. It's nothing. Just. He collapsed. Lucy dropped to her knees beside him, her hands finding the wound, a bullet hole below his ribs, bleeding heavily. The shot from Sungmin had found its mark after all, even as Hyun-sik had tried to shield her. No, no, no. Stay with me. She pressed her hands against the wound, feeling his blood warm and terrible against her fingers. Lucy. His voice was weak. I'm sorry. Should have been faster. Don't you dare. Don't you dare give up on me now. Tears streamed down her face. Dae-young, get a car. Hospital now. They moved him as carefully as possible, but every second felt like an eternity. In the car, racing through Seoul streets with sirens blaring, Lucy held Hyun-sik's hand and refused to let go. Remember what you promised, she said fiercely. A future. A little house. My art studio. You and me building something better. Sounds nice. So you have to live to see it. You hear me? You have to live. His eyes fluttered closed. Hyun-sik. The waiting room of Seoul Medical Center smelled like antiseptic and despair. Lucy sat with blood still on her hands, Hyun-sik's blood, and stared at the operating room doors. Dae-young sat beside her, equally silent. Hannah had arrived an hour ago and was pacing, praying quietly. Zhang Wei had sent flowers and a message promising all medical expenses would be covered. The surgery had been going for 4 hours. 4 hours of not knowing. Of imagining the worst. Of remembering the way Hyun-sik's eyes had closed in the car, the way his hand had gone limp in hers. He survived worse, Dae-young said quietly. Remember the knife fight in Busan? They said he wouldn't walk again. He was back on his feet in 2 weeks. That was different. Lucy's voice sounded hollow even to herself. He was younger. Not already injured. Not. The operating room doors opened. A surgeon emerged, still in scrubs, pulling down his mask. Lucy shot to her feet, her heart in her throat. Family of Baek Hyun-sik? Yes, Lucy and Dae-young said simultaneously. The surgeon looked exhausted but smiled slightly. He's stable. The bullet missed major organs but caused significant blood loss and damaged tissue. We had to repair a torn artery. But he's strong and the surgery went well. If there are no complications, he should make a full recovery. Lucy's legs gave out. Dae-young caught her and they clung to each other, relief making them both shake. Can we see him? She asked. He's in recovery. Give us another hour to get him settled in ICU, then you can visit briefly. That hour was the longest of Lucy's life. She used it to call people, Young-soo, the other lieutenants, even Zhang Wei. Everyone wanted to know if the boss would survive. Everyone wanted to help. Finally, a nurse led her to his room. Hyun-sik lay in the hospital bed, pale against white sheets, connected to monitors and 4 lines. But his chest rose and fell steadily, and when Lucy took his hand, it was warm. She sat beside him and cried. All the fear and adrenaline and impossible hope of the past weeks poured out in silent tears while she held his hand and listened to the steady beat of his heartbeat. "Don't scare me like that again," she whispered. "Please." His fingers twitched in hers. She looked up to find his eyes open, unfocused but alive. "Lucy? I'm here. I'm right here. Did we win?" "Yes. Sungmin's dead. Your people are safe. And I deleted every mark in the system. Everyone's free." He smiled slightly. "Of course you did. Overachiever." She laughed through her tears. "You're one to talk. Getting shot and still making jokes. Have to keep you entertained?" His eyes were already closing again, pulled under by medication and exhaustion. "Sleep," Lucy said softly. "I'll be here when you wake up. I promise." He squeezed her hand once and drifted off. Lucy stayed the entire night, refusing to leave his side. Hyun-sik's recovery took 6 weeks. 6 weeks during which Seoul's underworld went through a radical transformation. With Sungmin dead and Hyun-sik incapacitated, there was a power vacuum. But instead of fighting to fill it, something unexpected happened. Dae-young and Young-soo, acting on Hyun-sik's instructions relayed through Lucy, began the process of dismantling Black Lotus entirely. Territories were returned to legitimate businesses or sold to neutral parties. Soldiers were released from their oaths with severance payments. Debts were settled fairly or forgiven entirely. The marking database, already deleted, was never rebuilt. It was unprecedented. A syndicate committing organizational suicide. "You're sure about this?" Zhang Wei asked when he visited Hyun-sik's hospital room. "You could rebuild. Retain control. Be stronger than ever." Hyun-sik, sitting up in bed with Lucy beside him, shook his head. "I'm sure. Black Lotus was built on fear and exploitation. It needs to end. Let someone else control these streets, someone who'll hopefully do better than we did." A noble sentiment. Probably doomed to fail. Maybe. But I have to try. Zhang Wei studied them both, Hyun-sik pale but determined, Lucy's hand intertwined with his, and smiled. "You're a fool, Baek Hyun-sik, but an honorable one. I'll make sure no one interferes with your dissolution." After he left, Lucy turned to Hyun-sik. "You really don't have to do this. These people are your family. I'm making a new family." He brought her hand to his lips. "One built on love, not obligation. Is that offer still open? The future we talked about?" "Always." 2 weeks later, Hyun-sik was discharged from the hospital. They held a final meeting with Black Lotus leadership, or what remained of it. Dae-young presented financial reports showing all debts settled, all territories transferred. "It's done, boss," he said quietly. "Black Lotus is officially dissolved as of this morning." The room was silent. These men, some who'd served for decades, were processing the end of the only life they'd known. "You all have choices now," Hyun-sik said. "Clean slates. Money to start legitimate businesses if you want. Or you can join other syndicates. I won't stop you. But you're free. All of you." "What about you, boss?" Young-soo asked. "What will you do?" Hyun-sik glanced at Lucy. "Something different. Something better." After the meeting dissolved, Dae-young pulled Hyun-sik aside. "My wife still expects you both for dinner," he said gruffly. "Next week. No excuses." Hyun-sik smiled, a real smile, the kind Lucy had worked so hard to earn. "We'll be there. And boss? Thank you. For everything. For showing us there's another way." Dae-young's eyes were suspiciously bright. "You gave us our freedom. That's worth more than any amount of money or power." They embraced and Lucy had to turn away, her own eyes stinging. 3 months later, Lucy stood in an art gallery in Bukshan, putting the finishing touches on her exhibition. The walls were covered with her work, vibrant paintings blending African-American cultural motifs with Seoul's urban landscape. Black bodies in hanbok. Graffiti lotus flowers blooming on traditional architecture. Her heritage and her chosen home, merged into something entirely her own. "This one is my favorite," Hyun-sik said, standing before a large canvas depicting a man and woman holding hands against a backdrop of a Seoul skyline at sunset. The man's face was scarred but peaceful. The woman's wrist bore a lotus flower that seemed to glow with inner light. "I call it Marked by Love," Lucy said, joining him. "The tattoo that was supposed to make me property became the thing that brought me to you. Funny how that works." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Are you nervous? About tomorrow?" Tomorrow was the grand opening. Lucy's first solo exhibition. Critics and collectors had already expressed interest, thanks in part to Zhang Wei's connections and Dae-young's enthusiastic word of mouth. Terrified, she admitted. What if no one comes? What if they hate it? Impossible. You're brilliant. He kissed her temple. But if it helps, I already bought 3 pieces. You can't buy your girlfriend's art. That's cheating. Fiancé, he corrected gently. Lucy turned in his arms, her breath catching. What? Hyun-sik pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a simple but beautiful ring, a platinum band with a single black diamond. I meant to do this more romantically, he said, suddenly looking nervous in a way she'd never seen him. Plan something elaborate. But standing here, seeing what you've built, what you've become. I couldn't wait. He took her hand, the one with the lotus tattoo. Lucy Johnson. You saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You showed me how to be more than my worst moments. You gave me a future worth living for. His voice thickened with emotion. Will you marry me? Lucy couldn't speak, could barely breathe. So she just nodded, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, yes. Yes, yes, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed her, soft and reverent, in the gallery filled with the art she'd created and the future they'd built together. When they finally broke apart, Lucy laughed through her tears. A black diamond. 4 black lotus. For the mark that brought us together. For turning something dark into something beautiful. He touched her wrist gently. Like you did with me. You were always beautiful, Lucy said. You just needed someone to help you see it. They stayed in the gallery until late, talking about their plans. The exhibition opening tomorrow. Their upcoming move to a small house in Payu just outside Seoul. Far enough from the city for peace but close enough to visit friends. Hyun-sik's new job as a consultant for at-risk youth programs, using his experience to help kids avoid the life he'd led. Lucy's dreams of opening a community arts center that would offer free classes to underserved neighborhoods. A future built on hope instead of fear. On love instead of obligation. On choice instead of circumstance. The exhibition opening was a massive success. The gallery was packed, art collectors, critics, members of Seoul's creative community, and a surprising number of former Black Lotus members who came to support their former boss and his remarkable fiancée. Dae-young and Hannah brought their children. Young-soo arrived with a girlfriend no one knew he had. Even Zhang Wei made an appearance, purchasing the most expensive piece in the show with a knowing smile. Lucy watched it all with wonder, Hyun-sik's hand in hers, still not quite believing this was her life now. Speech, someone called out. Lucy blushed but stepped forward, Hyun-sik encouraging her with a gentle nudge. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice shaking slightly. This exhibition is called Marked by Love, and it's about transformation. About how the things that hurt us can sometimes lead us to exactly where we need to be. About how love, real love, doesn't erase our scars but helps us carry them with grace. Her eyes found Hyun-sik's in the crowd. 5 months ago, I was just a barista with dreams of being an artist. Then a wounded stranger collapsed at my door and my entire world changed. I was marked, hunted, terrified. But I was also seen, valued, and loved for exactly who I am. That man taught me to be brave. To fight for what matters. To choose my own destiny instead of accepting what circumstances dealt me. Hyun-sik's eyes were bright with unshed tears. So this exhibition is dedicated to everyone who's ever been marked by their past, by trauma, by mistakes, by other people's choices. You are not defined by those marks. You are defined by what you do next. By how you choose to transform pain into beauty, fear into courage, and darkness into light. The applause was thunderous. Later, as the crowd thinned and night fell over Seoul, Lucy and Hyun-sik stood on the gallery's balcony, looking out over the city that had tested them, broken them, and ultimately remade them. Do you miss it? Lucy asked quietly. The power? The control? Hyun-sik considered the question seriously. Sometimes I miss the certainty. Knowing my place, my purpose. But then I look at you, at this life we're building, and I realize, I don't miss who I had to be to have those things. He pulled her close. I'd rather have uncertainty with you than certainty without you. Pretty words, Mr. Beck. I'm trying to impress you, Ms. Johnson. Is it working? Maybe a little. She grinned. Though you already put a ring on it, so the pressure's off. He laughed, a sound that still surprised her with its warmth and freedom. Then he grew serious, taking her hand and turning it over to reveal her wrist. The black lotus tattoo was still there, but now it meant something completely different. Not a mark of ownership or debt, but a symbol of survival, of transformation, of a love that had bloomed in the darkest circumstances and refused to be destroyed. Thank you, Hyun-sik said softly, for not slamming the door that night. For letting a bleeding stranger into your home and your heart. For saving me in every way that matters. Lucy brought his hand to her lips, kissed his scarred knuckles. Thank you for being worth saving. For showing me I was stronger than I knew. For loving me enough to change the world. They stood together as Seoul's lights twinkled below them, two people who'd been marked by darkness but had chosen light. Who'd been defined by others but had redefined themselves. Who'd been told they were property but had claimed their freedom. And somewhere in the night, in a small house waiting for them in Payu, their future was waiting. Simple. Peaceful. Beautiful. Exactly what they'd fought for. Exactly what they'd earned. The countryside house was everything they'd dreamed of and more. Traditional Korean architecture with modern touches, surrounded by rice fields and mountains, far from the chaos of Seoul but close enough to visit when needed. Lucy's art studio took up the entire eastern wing, natural light flooding through large windows, canvases in various stages of completion leaning against every wall. She'd just secured a commission for a public mural in Seoul, a massive piece celebrating cultural diversity in modern Korea. Hyun-sik's office was smaller but comfortable, filled with case files from the youth program he'd helped establish. Troubled kids who reminded him of his younger self now had a chance to choose a different path, and he was there to guide them. On this particular Saturday morning, they were in the kitchen together, preparing for their weekly dinner with Dae-young and Hannah. It had become a tradition, every weekend taking turns hosting, sharing meals and stories and laughter. The kimchi is ready, Lucy announced, bringing a bowl to the table. Hannah had been teaching her traditional Korean cooking, and while she'd never be as skilled as her teacher, she was getting better. And the bulgogi is almost done, Hyun-sik said from the grill outside. He discovered a love for cooking in their quiet life, finding peace in the ritualistic preparation of meals. Lucy joined him on the back porch, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. He was filling out now, the gauntness of constant stress replaced by healthy weight. His scars had faded, though they'd never disappear completely. But he wore them differently now, not as badges of violence but as proof of survival. I got a call from Young-soo, Hyun-sik said. He's getting married. Wants us to attend the wedding. That's wonderful. The girlfriend he brought to my exhibition? The same. Apparently, she convinced him to open a legitimate security consulting firm. He's doing well. Lucy smiled. So many of the former Black Lotus members had found new paths. Some struggled, certainly. But many had taken the opportunity for redemption and run with it. And Zhang Wei sent a gift, Hyun-sik continued, nodding toward a package on the porch table. For the baby. Lucy's hand instinctively went to her stomach, still flat but carrying the tiny life they'd discovered just last week. They hadn't told anyone yet, wanting to savor the secret a little longer. How did he know? She asked, though she wasn't really surprised. Zhang Wei seemed to know everything. He has his ways. But his note said he's happy for us. That new life is the ultimate form of redemption. Lucy thought about that, about the child growing inside her who would never know the world of violence her parents had escaped. Who would be raised with art and love and the freedom to choose their own path. Our baby is going to have the weirdest extended family, she said. Reformed gangsters, international crime bosses, artists and activists. The best kind of family, Hyun-sik replied. The kind you choose. He turned in her arms and kissed her, one hand coming to rest gently on her stomach. And in that moment, standing in the home they'd built from the ashes of their old lives, Lucy felt completely at peace. The marks of her past, both literal and figurative, would always be part of her story. But they didn't define her ending. Love did. Choice did. The future she and Hyun-sik were creating together, one quiet day at a time. A doorbell chimed. Dae-young and Hannah had arrived, bearing more food and their children's laughter. The house filled with warmth and noise and the beautiful chaos of chosen family. And later that night, after their guests had left and Lucy and Hyun-sik lay tangled together in bed, he traced the lotus tattoo on her wrist with gentle fingers. I love you, he whispered. Thank you for being my salvation. I love you too, Lucy whispered back. Thank you for being mine. Outside, the countryside was quiet and peaceful. Seoul's underworld continued without them, new players filling old roles, the cycle continuing as it always had and always would. But here, in this small house surrounded by rice fields and possibility, two people had found something rarer than power or wealth or control. They'd found freedom. They'd found peace. They'd found home. And they'd found each other. That was enough. That was everything. How did this story make you feel? Drop your emotions in the comments below. Did it give you butterflies, make your heart race, or leave you wanting more? I'll see you in the next one.